And the food we're eating as well, that's another thing. There's our
Oh, yes.
ancestors
Yeah.
wouldn't eat that much. They wouldn't eat that much meat. There's this misconception here in the West that people eat meat now 3 times a day, pretty much. But like our ancestors wouldn't. It just wasn't available, so they would eat it maybe once a week if they were lucky. There was a lot of cooked food, homemade food, not eating too much, and
Yes.
yeah. So I'm vegetarian, so I don't, for 5 years I don't eat meat. I'm a disgrace to Croatians. There are people eat, but I realize how much I am lighter in my head ever since I
Mm.
don't.
Yeah. No, because see, in olden times, in old days, in those times, again today, even the meat has become industry. You see,
Full
the
of
meat industry.
hormones, full of
It's yeah,
antibiotics.
yeah. I mean, in mass, the chickens are produced forcefully. They are bred, and it's a mass industry. You know it all, like how ugly it is becoming day by day. And in mass, they are capturing fishes, cutting them, slicing them off, literally when they're alive. It's happening in so many China, Vietnam, so many countries, US. It's even happening in India, by the way, in some places, many places. uh, Cattle is being forcefully unfed, put on machines, and then it's slaughtered for its skin, for all the so-called stuff that they beget from it. It is,
You
it's
eat that stress,
crazy.
then
It's
you
crazy
eat
the
all
way
that.
it is showing up.
Yeah, and when you take a piece of meat from an animal that was under so much stress,
Yeah,
and you put that into your system, it also transfers that stress to you.
yeah. I mean, this is something that a lot of people will just go on the top of their head.
Uh,
But it's a very, you're talking from a very energetic sense of it. Of course, it's nothing against nature per se if you're eating meat for
no,
that,
there's
but
nothing. Yeah,
it has to be a balance. I mean, of course, if you don't want to eat, you don't eat. That's also fine. I mean, I'm also a vegetarian. I
yeah,
don't even take eggs for that
yeah,
matter.
yeah. No,
Uh, but then even in the Hindus, amongst Hindus family, if you're talking about India, there are people who eat meat also, who take, but there are certain, like, of course, there are spiritually, religiously, there are certain things that we don't eat beef. We don't
yes,
eat
yeah,
beef
I
at all.
know that. Yeah,
There are people, there are some tribes in remote areas who eat beef
mm.
for some reason, they continue to eat beef,
Yeah,
or suddenly they have turned to beef
mm.
thanks to the American culture. Anyway, but then,
Burgers.
but not understanding. I think once I read somewhere was reading an article on Ayurveda, and they were talking about that Ayurveda also does not deny eating meat, by the way.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there
I
are
know.
certain animals or birds or certain kinds of meats which are excessively toxic and dangerous for the human body.
Mm.
And of those certain categories, beef is one of them. Excessively toxic. It doesn't disrupt only one or two things. It disrupts over time, it disrupts all the three levels of the body. And the more it is eaten, the more there is risk of, higher the risk of other diseases and all of those sort of things. I don't know. I mean,
You can see it as well
how,
in the
yeah, I
West.
mean, it is, see, it's right there in people's faces. Still, there are so many people who are denying the reality.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't
yeah.
want to accept it.
You see, there's so many proofs that going on kind of raw fruit and veg diet is great for healing all kinds of diseases. Like I'm a member of the group on Facebook of like raw diet, and I've seen so many people reverse their medical issues with it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
like obviously, if you don't, the guy already said from there, like if you're healthy, there is no reason to eat completely raw. You don't have to. Like you can eat cooked food,
yeah,
but if you're sick, uh, that's the best way to expel everything that's
yeah,
bad from your
yeah,
body.
yeah, 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 exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, there has to be a certain formulation that, um, they have you heard this thing that they say that food is medicine.
Yeah, yeah.
Make food your medicine instead of
Apple a
popping
day
pills and
makes
after
a
pills. Why don't you make
doctor away.
food your medicine?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, of course, see, you can indulge, you can have a pizza, burger, that's fine. But overindulgence and excessive mindless indulgence is what is it doing to you? I mean, you're just eating, eating, and eating beyond a certain point, and you're not saying no. You have no boundary for yourself. You've not understand the body is going to give up in a certain
It
point,
will. You're just
one way or the
poisoning
other.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it will show warnings as well. It will show you warnings, and it will be like, ooh. I know, like, because I when I was growing up, like growing up in Croatia where I was born, there's a high consumption of pork and meat and a lot of dairy and cheese and actually it's mostly meat there. And it's like
Mm,
we don't eat a lot of vegetables even.
okay.
And I was like constantly had skin rashes and I was
Mm.
constantly struggling with something. I had sinus infections. I had this and that. And funny enough, when I cut off dairy, it just disappeared.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and
Okay.
perhaps it wasn't even the dairy itself. It's just the way it was produced, perhaps.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I can breathe now.
Right. Of course, see, many other factors, the environment, and all of these things also matter. And of
No,
course,
I
food
think my
has a
body is
very
just very sensitive. Maybe that's why I'm
mm,
sensitive to energies and spiritual stuff. So my body itself is very sensitive to everything. So as soon as I
yeah.
put
See,
something in me that's
that's fine.
very,
See,
yeah.
I think it's your body is like a the way it functions. It's like a Apple MacBook, like that, it just sits next to you, and the rest of it needs proper trim and proper care.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
somebody can be using their body like some Windows 95 system software, rough and tired, and use it as a
Yeah, they
just
can,
going
and they're
off next to
fine.
it. See,
Oh my
that's the
gosh.
like the way you know. Uh, that's what I mean. In yogic systems, in tantric systems, the body is a very powerful, beautiful vessel.
Mm,
It is not dirty, not bad, sinful, not at all.
mm.
This is the vessel that you are living in, and it's as pure, divine as any other vessel could be, or as anything else could be, some heavenly being could be. It is said in our scriptures, in some of the Hindu scriptures and texts, they say the devatas, the angels, as they say, the divine deities, they crave for a human body. Why? Because a human body is capable of achieving the highest divine experience, which even a devata might or a divine entity might not be able to get. And that's when many stories, in many of our stories, we go back, we read, oh, the king of the devas, Indra, he got jealous of this rishi or that saint and this king because they were doing a certain. Because why? Because the sheer power of their yogic process, their penance that they would do, was enough to get Indra insecure of his seat, that oh, this God is going to, the divine power is going to become so merciful on this person, and he or she is going to overthrow and overturn. This is a lot of allegory. That's how the uh, that's how powerful a human body is. So it's very
When you go
important
back
to
to,
respect it.
mhm,
It's very important to respect it.
of
And
course.
no spiritual process either can be successful if this vessel is not respected, is not taken care of properly. No, even you cannot even succeed in spirituality.
No, no, no.
In
There's no
fact,
way.
in yogic sciences and yogic processes, the first, the Ashtanga limbs, the 8 limbs of yoga, what they call, it is about a lot of, has to do with, your physical
Physicality.
nutrition and all
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
Yama, niyama, pratyahara, and all of that.
Yes.
Your posture, the way you
Yes.
move, the way you conduct yourself, cleansing, nutrition. It's so important. And these basic factors itself are so off the chart for so many people these days.
I know.
And again, as I say, I'm not saying one has to be a perfect figure. No, I'm not saying that.
It's not about
but
figure. Yeah.
but 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 having, that at least that basic sufficient space for your own body, not looking at your own body as something so dirty, uh, degraded, full of this, and like sometimes some spiritual people have this, oh, the body's, yeah, it's the body's
The sin
cancer.
of the flesh.
Ah, this is this is sometimes it's even I've seen in some of the Hindu practitioners also, I've seen this, deny the body, because overload of spirituality is also not good.
No, no, no. It
So
has to be balanced.
yes, so they deny the body to such an extent, that the body it becomes completely shut off from that part of life, totally, completely. This also reminds me, there was in historically, there was a very famous teacher and a guru in India. He's known as Kautilya. His other name was Chanakya. He's very famous. If you Google him, you'll find a lot of his quotes and works. And in ancient India, there was a university of Nalanda. There was a space in Nalanda, which is now in present day, I think, Pakistan, towards Bihar and beyond Bihar, Pakistan, somewhere there. And there were, because there were a lot of Roman people, at that time, there were Roman invasions happening in India, and then after them a brief period of Roman invasion, and then came the Mughal invasions. They burnt it off, the entire institute of Nalanda. That was a huge institute, and it is said it kept on burning for 3 months. The library of Nalanda, Takshashila in Nalanda. They It was so brutally destroyed. So uh, he was a professor, and a teacher there, and a very well versed teacher in political science and economics and philosophy. And he used to teach. He's also written a text called Artha Shastra, which is the treatise on economy, financial and money matters. You know, so you see that spirituality never denied in India. It was never divorced from material life. Never. So what happened in those times, and even there was a lot of infighting happening even in India, like between kings. This one king would say, this is my land. Other would say, this is my land. Then this king would create a conspiracy on the other. A lot of mess up was there. So this teacher, he could understand, he could see, because he was a teacher of societal studies and all of that. He could see it's not, whatever is happening, it's way out of line. So he would often talk about national pride and taking care of nation, its boundaries, and have that sense. A lot of people would mock him, but it's very fiery, had a very strong will. So he went to the king. The king mocked him, and the king was a drunkard, and he was also a womanizer, sort of a thing. And he was in daytime, when it's the time for the king to administer, read the documents, what's happening. He was so irresponsible. He was drunk like anything. And he goes and he presents his, a theory to the king. The king is way out of line, and he disrespects him, makes fun of him. He becomes angry, so angry, and he declares in the entire court that you one day will surely come. I will ensure that I will bring that day of your downfall and annihilating your existence from this planet. And he made sure, and he found a boy, a boy of the streets. And he would every day go out and seek a young, robust, young person who he could see was very energetic and very intelligent. And he saw this boy, he was observing him, the way he was playing with his friends and his body language, very zesty. And then he called him one day, come here, I want to talk to you. And he spoke to him. And through his conversation, he understood that this boy is very sharp and very energetic, both physically and mentally. And that is the time, out of a simple boy of that town, he developed a king out of that boy. and that king is known as Chandragupta Maurya in Indian history today, and one of the finest brave rulers India has ever known. And when he ascended the throne with the help of Chanakya and a lot of his supporters, when he ascended, many things were sort of smoothened out. Lot many things, but of course there are so many other things also that happened later on, as again in fighting happened. There's so many other factors were there, but in his rule, so many things were set out, and he was the one. Chandragupta Maurya was the one, the young Chandragupta, who finally defeated and killed that irresponsible king who was into all sorts of dirty business.
Okay. I
So,
just realized that we have been talking for 3 hours.
oh yeah, me too. I was just looking at a while back. Yeah, I mean this.
Yeah,
Uh, this is such a wide,
it
diverse,
is.
deep sense. There's society here. There's health. Every aspect it covers. I mean, you can.
Yeah,
It's so powerful, and I think what we are discussing is very much like what's happening and what we really need to look at. And
yeah,
I think I shared this story also to draw the point that it's so important that uh, the space and time is also analyzed and understood what is needed in society, and
yeah,
denying that reality is only going to cause more harm than good, which
absolutely.
I think I'm afraid a lot of people are missing out on the point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I don't know, the nature of the world at the moment, and but some things are changing. I feel like every time the pendulum swings too far in one direction, it will have to come back to the other one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I think we're starting to realize the limitations of certain things and certain systems, and a lot of people have been harmed with that. Um, and now the pendulum kind of starting to swing the other way. Still, we still have a lot to go. I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah. But it was great to actually talk about spirituality in I'd say in a bit of a different way than most people do, in more of a like a down to earth way,
Yeah.
rather than about like something up there that is unreachable and mysterious, and
Yeah.
more in a like a practical way, because that's the way I look at it.
I think me too, me too. And I think I'll say a very, I'll just point out a very, I'll pick up a very small point. I think it's my, how I look at it is that, we humans are like this, like small speck of dust. If you
Hmm.
look at the larger creation,
Grander scheme,
we're
yeah.
actually nothing.
Mm.
It's just in our heads and our egos. If you look at space, we are literally a speck of dust.
Hmm. Hmm.
Our existence in the larger, it doesn't even matter. I think we should be grateful about the fact that we've got this human life
Yeah.
and the ability, the senses, the brains to do something about it,
Mm.
and in a good way. So I think if we can channelize it to evolve ourselves, to refine ourselves, all the more good.
Yeah.
With the humility to understand and see that we still we still don't know everything, and we can never know everything.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
can take lifetimes and lifetimes. You may rake up your brains as much as you'd like. Not possible.
It's kind of like,
Not possible.
strive to reach the stars, but also realize you're never going to reach them. But
Exactly,
still
exactly.
enjoy the journey,
Yeah.
nevertheless. Yeah, the
True
growth and,
spirituality is exactly how you have put it, Anna. Just true
yeah,
spirituality is exactly that.
yeah,
Having a bigger vision, wide horizon, and understanding and perception, and at the same time being grounded in your reality, with
yeah.
the world, connected.
Respect small things as well, which a lot of
Totally,
people fail to do, the
totally.
power of emotions, love, and everything. The little
Yeah,
experiences that you have that make you human in the end. And yeah, a lot of people are kind of super focused on material stuff, which material, obviously money is great. There's no doubt about it. Money can help you acquire a lot of things that can help you
Oh,
then in
yes,
certain other ways.
yes. In, it's
But
very interesting that
yeah,
you
yeah,
say money
yeah.
is so. It's so interesting that in India, we even money we look at as spiritual in India.
No, it is. Money is energy. It
Yeah,
is absolutely energy. Like the capability of earning money and
yeah,
acquiring money also means that that you have the capability of creating things.
yeah.
uh, so it is almost a tool for creation in a way. So
Exactly, exactly. And I think in how we look at here is like we look at money as a goddess,
uh-huh,
the
uh-huh.
goddess Lakshmi, and not just money. We see that even for food, food is also Lakshmi,
Yes,
wealth,
yes,
food, money, uh, but your ability to be patient and persevere, that's good health is Lakshmi. Then
yeah,
the knowledge of self is Lakshmi,
yeah.
the
It's all
highest
wealth.
Lakshmi, by the way, they say. know, uh, Even spiritual knowledge is Lakshmi.
Hmm.
And then good progeny. If you have good children,
Yes,
healthy children,
yeah.
children who do good acts, and that's also a form, an attribute of Lakshmi, good Lakshmi. And
Wealth.
then, of course, good fortune is Lakshmi. You
Yeah,
know, the ability to succeed and have victory is Lakshmi. So
yeah.
Lakshmi is categorized into broadly into eight categories. Yes, she is one, but yes, she is in all aspects. And then beyond that, there are many other things that Lakshmi is in everything, nature, everything. There's a deeper aspect of it. But yes, wealth is also spiritual.
Yes, of course.
But with
It's
Lakshmi, there is Vishnu, who represents awareness,
hmm.
wisdom. So when wealth goes with wisdom, it can be used in very beautiful, constructive ways.
That's what I said. Money is actually such a neutral energy because it can be
Exactly.
used for good or for bad. Depends on you.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's like an energy that you are you are able to use towards anything you want. Uh, it, it creates something, but it's up to you what you're going to do with it. So it can be good or bad.
Totally. Totally agree.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, someone said once it's nicer to cry in a Mercedes than on the street. So,
And
uh,
I totally feel that spiritual people, truly spiritual people, of course, there are exceptions, but a lot of exceptions to this can be a lot of exceptions, but truly spiritual people can, should, and will always have good wealth.
yes, yeah,
Will always have good wealth.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is, it is very sad that this mentality is being spread in the name of spirituality. Oh, wealth is something so evil. It's so bad. It shows how greedy you are.
yeah.
Oh,
So church can have it, not you.
no, it's even from that for that matter, a lot of people, the conditioning, and of course there are many generational aspects to it and all of that, but it's such a toxic, dangerous ideology.
It's a dangerous
And
thing.
in fact, a lot of other political ideologies are also like that. Oh, you should not have money. You should say, "Blah, blah, blah, you're being taken advantage of." And all the while, the one who is saying is filling his or
It's
her
tons of
pocket.
money. Yeah, yeah,
Lots
of
and tons of
course.
money.
I mean,
Like
like,
literally drenching in money. So, I mean, in the name of money, a lot of misguidance happens, a lot of
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
wrong is happening. But yes, I think that it needs to be spiritualized all the more.
Yes, yeah. And also, like, if you're like a spiritual coach or whatever, there's a lot of people that see a problem of paying a coach for something, and it is an
Oh,
exchange of energy.
yes.
I was working with this girl. She was a shaman, and she didn't want to be paid with money, and she said, "Bring me something." So I would bring her crystals, or I would bring her something. So that would be, but she's like, there needs to be an exchange of energy between us. So if
Yeah.
I offer you a certain service, you need to offer me something as well. So it's not like a spiritual coach or a therapist is like not willing it's not like they're not enjoying the work they do or they don't want to help you, but there needs to be some kind of exchange of energy. It's like if you go into a shop and you want to buy fruit and that someone else, um, um, picked from a tree, like you need to pay for it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No,
Yeah.
it is, see the balance of give and take. The simple balance of
Yes.
give and take comes to my mind that, if somebody is rendering their time and services to you, pay them,
Yeah.
pay them. Why not pay them? See, whatever it is, see, it could be more or less. Somebody might be working for a certain in a certain way for a certain kind of people. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fine. At
There's a
least
lot of
they're not doing some crime. They're not
yeah.
going and wringing somebody's neck and taking money out of them.
I
They
know
are
where
offering
this
the
is coming
services.
from. A lot of people had like they were supposed to get unconditional love from their parents. It's like a
Hmm.
free love, let's say.
Yeah.
And unfortunately their parents failed to do so. And now
Yeah.
they're looking for that. They're still needing that. And if they pay for therapy, sometimes they feel like, they're not getting that kind of free love.
Hmm.
But unfortunately it's impossible. Um Unfortunately that's you have to step up and say to yourself, I'm not a child anymore, and unfortunately, where I should have got unconditional love, that
Yeah.
fortunately didn't happen. But
I also think, see, I'll just add one more point here. Is I also think that, when you just said that, it just hit me that, it's also, see, it's also healthy when you are paying for it. See,
it
okay,
is.
something is being given for free. It can only be given to a certain extent, right? But, there's this word they say, freeloader. I mean, let's not be that kind of a person. Like, let's respect somebody else's time and effort as well. If they are
I
like
have
really, really putting in their heart and soul into it,
I
why
have a
not?
friend, and she helped me with something. So I said to her, "I'm gonna give you a free card to my workshop," and she didn't show up. And then I had my second workshop, and I was like, "You can come in for free again." And she didn't show up either. But there were people that paid for it, and then they wanted
Exactly.
to come because they paid
Exactly.
for it. And
Exactly.
it's interesting. I was like, okay, so you had a free seat for it, and you could have just enjoyed it for
Yeah,
free, and you don't come in, and then someone else paid for it, and of course they're going to show up because they really want this.
of course. See,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. I've heard so many people say that most of the times, free stuff tends not to be appreciated. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not taken. It's taken
Seriously.
for granted.
Yes.
Taken for granted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the moment it's so funny. It's so funny. I mean, it's so funny. A cloth, a piece of cloth. I think you must have studied about it. A piece of cloth that is manufactured in India, right? In India, in a small town in India, a T-shirt
Hmm.
or a jeans, okay? It goes all the way to Fendi and Gucci and whatnot. They outsource their work,
Of
from
course.
markets like Bangladesh and India and all of this, okay? And that T-shirt, which is made in, let's say, 500 bucks, 500 rupees in Indian rupees, it goes to US, to a certain brand, whatever it could be, Abercrombie, what this and that. There, the moment the name of that brand is placed on that T-shirt, it becomes 10 times the price
Yeah.
or 5 times the price.
If you want to buy it.
And there are people who are buying it.
Yeah,
By the way,
they
there
are.
are people who are
They are.
buying it.
There are people that think that their worth is determined by what they wear.
Exactly. And
uh,
I'm
yeah.
not blaming the people, but
No,
again, just pointing out how interesting is the flow of wealth,
it
of
is.
value and wealth. It's so interesting.
Or else, like I was reading that there's actually tons of diamonds around the world, but they're kept in the walls because if they would be easily available, they would be worthless.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
if you want something to be highly valuable, you need to have less of it. And it's the same thing happening with the housing crisis now. There's not enough houses, so they're worth a loss. If there was plenty of them, they wouldn't be, so worthy. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Hmm. That's another thing altogether, though.
Oh yes. Yes.
There's so many
So
topics,
true.
actually.
So true.
Oh
Maybe
wow.
we can, have a phase two of this, and then maybe we can
I
talk.
think we need to talk about tantra in the next podcast.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes, because
yeah,
it's a very interesting and a very
yes,
very in topic these days.
yes. I'd say it's very in. Yeah,
Yeah,
not in a
I
way
can
that
only
people would
briefly say
expect
this
it.
much, that a lot of tantra is misguided today,
Yes, yeah,
is deformed and completely ugly,
simplified.
and a lot, and so stupid. I can't even tell you, so stupid it is. People have no understanding of the basics, even the basic definition of tantra. They just made something out of their own sense of it, made something totally out of themselves, and and it has such serious repercussions energetically and physically. People don't understand. People don't understand. Tantra is a science. Tantra is a system of knowledge that has come down straight from Shiva and Shakti. You people have no respect for the source, no understanding of where it is coming from, how it has emerged. What are the other, intricacies about it? There are practices that need to be done in a certain way, and tantra is not just occult and dark nothing, and only about sex. There is so it's just one teensy weensy part of it. Tantra is a technology, it's a way of life, and it's a very vibrant way of life. It's the play of energy when you and different it has different forms. The tantra is for even Vishnu, for Shiva, for goddess, for Ganesha. Any energy form you take, there is a tantra related to that energy form, and that is why it is so unique. That Anna, for Anna it could be, let's say for example, it could be Ganesha. The energy would match more with Ganesha. For Kashish it could match more with, let's say, Vishnu or something else. Example, I'm giving an example. That is why in this tradition you need the support of a guru, well versed, trained, practiced guru who has done it and who is doing it. And you need to have a lineage of guru, well established lineage of guru, right? With whom you can, in with complete respect, and that's why it's not about submission. The guru is making you to submit to them, but because you bring that reverence, respect for the tradition, that respect makes you grow in the practice,
Yeah.
helps you blossom, reach the highest. That's all I can say for now. But yes, there are so many layers to it which needs to be discussed, should be talked about. But the way it is being done today, especially in the Western world, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Kind of obsessed with our sexual revolution here, so we're trying to cheapen everything. I think.
Well, obsession, I mean, no, nobody is denying sexuality. It's a part of human experience and life,
Yeah,
but
but
you
it's
are
not the
people are
everything.
completely become obsessed with it. Like
Hmm.
they're mentally getting deranged and ill with 24/7, be having this in their heads. So
I realized, like myself, I know, like when you're too much in your sexual and energy, and if you're constantly in it, it peaks, and then you need to let it go. And for some people, like being constantly like peaking with it, I think it's psychologically disturbing.
yeah,
I never experienced it because I kind of know how to deal with my energy. So I know when it's something is too much and I need to go somewhere else. But for
mm.
some people, they're like constantly in it. It must be trauma. I don't know. I have no other
It's trauma. It's
explanation.
also, I think it's also uh, a lot of suppression, repression, and I think
Yeah.
it's also another part of it is also possibly that uh, not just being able to hold your own energy.
Yeah.
You're unable to anchor it. You're unable to hold it. So
Yeah.
the vessel is weak. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
leaks out.
Yeah.
The energy just leaks out, and it's
Mm.
the same energy that turns into creativity.
Mhm. Mhm.
that
I
turns into
notice
joy,
if
all of that.
I put a lot of energy into creativity and into like creating something, I'm actually not like I'm not in that much into sexuality. It's like the energy is spent
Yeah.
over there already, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what, see, that, of course, this is a very intense energy. It's not easy to, I'm not saying that I have become the master of it today. No, no, no. But yes, if we can just start understanding it with more
Mm,
care, with
mm,
more, a little more gentleness, a little more, if we can just slow down a little bit more, then it can do a lot more good. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of desperation to jump into something, make a concept out of it, and then apply it to your identity, and not being able to move beyond that identity then, because you're so identified with your identity. There's so much of, like, it's so confusing for so people, and they've made it so confusing that it is creating more confusion, and it's only creating more. Um, as you were saying, that there are these people who are faking spirituality. That is why faking spirit, because you are mesmerized by a certain topic and certain energy about it, but you can't hold the energy.
no,
You've
no,
gone into tantra, the tantra practices, tantric this, tantric that, but you have absolutely zero idea of even the simple basic connotation of word tantra, what it means, and what is the source. It is the source is the divine himself and herself,
yeah.
the divine couple of Shiva and Shakti, the divine parents of the universe. We call them as divine parents when you're a devotee of Shiva and Shakti. And I'll also show, I have a chain in.
Yes. Sexuality has been so injured by
Oh,
Christianity here that it is incredible. Like it's just we've been living in generations of families and especially women being taught that sexuality is dirty and it's sinful
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah, there's a lot
it's
of people are being
bad.
taught that.
Yeah, and now because the pendulum kind of flipped to the other side, but the trauma hasn't been resolved. So now
Yeah,
sexuality is freely available, but it's still dirty, you know? And it's just like the way I think people here in the West look at it, majority of us, anyways, is just like, oh, it's almost like a temptation. It's something that it's tempting us, and we can't resist it, and we just lean into it. But it's still dirty. And if you have that kind of a mindset, you can't go into tantra.
yeah, yeah.
It's just it doesn't work. So you need to sort out your relationship with sexuality, and it's tough. Like
Yeah,
it is very hard for us here, I'd say, because yeah, even my grandmother, the way she raised my mother and her mother, I mean, sex was a taboo thing, and it was just supposed to be done in marriage, and was just supposed to be done for to make babies, and like it was something so bad.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
See,
then my generation of my mom, for example, like
yeah,
they were the first ones to kind of get some kind of freedom, and half of the women there would just like because they didn't know anything, they would just go into relationships where there was a lot of unwanted pregnancies and shame to the
mm,
family because this thing with sexuality, like it, it is strong. It's a strong energy. So
yeah,
sometimes people can't control it, especially if you suppress so much. And
mm.
then it just explodes.
After,
Explodes.
yeah,
But
yeah,
then there's guilt and shame, and there's so much of it. Like honestly, I had so much as well. And still sorting it out. Um layer
because
after layer.
after, yeah, after food, sexuality is the second most. These two are the most strong impressions in our human consciousness.
Mm,
We've been doing it since so many births. We don't
yeah.
even know.
Mm,
And of course, like when you say that, it's like a pendulum, which is, so it's like, it's moving like this. It's moving, just moving, but you're unable to, like the pendulum is going here, then the pendulum is going there. Then when
yeah.
you're not able to hold the pendulum like this
Mm,
gently,
yeah.
because we are not being taught. And even in the name of let's say sex education, it is made so vulgar,
It
so
is. I don't.
distasteful. And even the teachers, even in India, even in India it's the same thing, you'll have young teens. Even I noticed it when we were studying in ninth or 10th grade about the reproduct. People would like howl and scoot and what not about that. And I would use, what's the big deal? It's something that you are reading about your own body, yeah. I mean, what's the big deal about it? But it was
I
such a
remember.
holla.
I was traumatized. So I think when I was 8 years old, I went to church with my mom. She took me, and I got to meet the priest. That she was like, he's the best guy ever. Look at him, and he gave me this kind of white book with prayers inside. And on the very first page, there said that masturbation is a sin and you should be punished by God for it,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
completely traumatized me
Hmm.
because I thought every time when I do it, I will be punished by God, and that's why I'm getting bad marks in mathematics. It's a huge trauma for a child.
Yeah,
Imagine,
yeah.
like, and having this entire like guilt. And growing up, like your sex drive is so strong,
Yeah,
and
see,
every time when you
yeah.
act on it, it's like, oh, you're going to hell. It's not great.
So I think here again, if you refer to the yogic systems or even the tantric system, it's not considered as bad. Yes, and even in there's the treatise. There's an entire treatise on sex, by the way, in India, the Kama Sutra. It doesn't say that it's bad, but yes, it gives you guidelines for healthy expression of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't teach you to become vulgar, and nor does it teach you to like take it to the extremes, but it teaches you healthy outlets, a healthy way of expressing it, of
I was uh,
experiencing.
I was reading
Excess
that
of anything is bad. Excess of uh
everything is bad. Yeah.
like you were talking about even excess of sexual expression and sexual innuendos and all of that, it makes it disgusting, and beyond a point it gives a bad taste.
Yes.
But if it's done in a very careful manner, in a gentle way, or in an intelligent manner, then it can be healthy. And as they say, when somebody has when they go and have sex with somebody who is like really really they are committed to each other, then it becomes healthy, prolific and random. And then we see the dangerous consequences of it, rising uh, sexual diseases, reproductive organs
That's what I wanted to mention.
failing, and whatnot.
I was reading that STDs uh, were energetically actually a result of shame and guilt connected with sexuality. And I
Hmm.
couldn't agree more with it, because if you think that this is filthy and dirty, of course, a diseased, you
Yeah.
know, it would be a good way to describe it as well. And then you have all of this happening. But yeah, I could. Yeah, when I was growing up, being kind of an open-minded female and exploring your sexuality was a thing to do, but it never worked for me. Like I could never. I tried a couple of times, of course, but it just didn't work for me. I felt awful. I was like, oh, like I'm not doing this anymore. Like, and even if I like the person, but it's just like, I don't know. We don't know each other enough.
Hmm.
It's not natural for us to connect in that kind of a way if we
Hmm.
don't know each other enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just feels cheap. I feel cheap,
Hmm.
you know?
I
So
think
I
that's
just
where
gave
I
up
think
on that and I started looking for
yeah.
love.
I think that's where again. I think again it goes back to the concept of healthy boundaries and
Mm.
uh,
Your body is your last boundary, by the way. And
Yeah.
being a woman, you're actually letting someone in your body. That's even worse. And if that's a person that you don't fully trust, it's not natural. It
Yeah.
just isn't.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
I think it's even for men nowadays. It's even for men. Not just nowadays. Of course, this is for both men and women, but the way things are developed, I think we also had a discussion previously
yeah,
on men, how men are being destroyed. I think this is also happening with men. There's
yeah,
too much of sexuality or too much of raw animalistic expression of sexuality.
yeah.
And nowadays, you even see some men, using it as an allure
Mm,
in their space to gain likes, views, follows, and
mm.
whatnot. I mean, so
I've
this
seen
is
a
one
guy
form.
recently. He was making food. He's topless, and he had this piece of like pastry. He was slapping it, and I was like, "What am I watching?"
Cringe content, cringe content.
I was like, "What am I watching here?" And I was like, "This is obvious. It is so obvious what he's doing."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, okay, women have been doing this now for some time, so the guys figured out a way to do it as well.
yeah.
Good for them. But I'm like, what is this?
The world is as it is. I mean, see, for once you can have fun looking at it. You can laugh, you can mock at it.
I
But
did laugh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, again, it brings us to that point that how even in food, something that you do eat, you make it so disgusting.
I
Like beyond the point that you don't want to eat. My God, please shut it down. I don't want to eat this food. I can't eat it
He was
anymore.
like making burgers or something. I was, and my only thing, I was only thinking, why are you putting pineapple in the burger? This is disgusting.
It's so funny. The world is so funny sometimes. I
Oh
mean, so
my gosh. And then everybody's coming to me to therapy is like, oh, I can't find the person. I can't find the right one. Yeah, it's tough because it's such a strange place the world is.
yeah.
And by the time you're 30 here in the West, you're completely traumatized by the
Mm,
previous relationships.
mm, mm,
And oh wow, there's so many stories I've heard, and half of the women I know have been raped at some point.
mm. It's
More
very
than
sad.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very sad. In one time here in India, there used to be a you know a notion that the Western countries have advanced so much technologically, so flashy and everything, but they never realize that so many of the Western nations are headed towards self-destruction. They
True.
never realized,
True.
and now it's like coming back a full circle.
Mm.
And of course, there are still people who are, I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, I'm just quoting a fact for the matter. I'm not saying that everything about the West is only bad. There's so many good things. Why don't you learn the good things of timely management, of, uh, meritocracy, of, being on time, punctuality, all of these things you don't want to learn. But all that is gone wrong in the West, you want to adopt all of that. And the same thing is happening,
You
and
should go
even,
to Finland. They're all punctual. If you meet with
oh,
someone in
yes,
Finland, they're there on time.
People from Germany,
Yeah, yeah.
minutes are calculated.
No, I'm the same. I'm never late. I'm always there on time. Even if I try to be late, I can't. It's like because I overthink. So,
Yeah. So, see, there are always good things that one can learn from others, but uh, not at the cost of your own identity, of your own roots, of who you are,
mm, mm.
and understanding that where you want to head to, where you are heading on to. That's also very important. But I mean, okay, what else? Like,
There's a lot of problems in the West, and ever since COVID hit, they actually became worse. And I actually haven't a clue what's going to be happening. Also, Europe is losing its identity as well. At the moment, it's like, yeah, I actually don't see what the future will bring us. But the only thing we can do is act as individuals, and
yeah,
yeah, try to fix things as best as we can.
yeah,
But yeah, I, as always with everything, there will come time when it will hit. the level of what human, people here can take, and then there's going to have to be some changes.
Hmm.
But yeah, um, someone said there was a research that the boomer generation, so the generation of my mom and dad, had better life than us now, than millennials and Gen Z. And that is the first time something like that happened in history, because usually every next generation would have a better quality of life. And this is the first time it didn't happen.
Hmm.
So the
Yeah.
quality of life dropped. For example, like a generation of my parents could easily buy a house with one average salary, raise a
Hmm.
family, pay for the school, pay for everything. And now my generation, like with two salaries, sometimes can't make it. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Yes, yes. Of
the
course it
quality
will.
of life, the quality of healthcare dropped as well. And sometimes here in Ireland, you can't get to a doctor. In the
Hmm.
UK, you can't get to a dentist. I was talking with my friend, she lives in London. She had to wait for 6 months to see a dentist, but she lost it. She just flew to Croatia and did it privately
Six
there.
months, but why such a long gap?
There's no dentist.
No
So
dentist?
there's just too many people and too few.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like you can't find a doctor sometimes. Like it took me, I think, a month to find a doctor here in this town, just to have him in case I need him.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And a lot of doctors would leave actually and go to Australia, but it's better payday, but better life, better weather. So Ireland really has it tough, and now with all the extra people coming in, it's gonna be interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
No, I think a lot of, yes, indeed, a lot of issues and problems are man-made.
yeah.
And I think some of them are just intentionally made.
No, no, no. That's I think it's deliberate, like because yeah,
Yeah, deliberately, so that others who are sitting on the fence of that issue can make money,
yeah,
gain out of it.
yeah, yeah. Of course,
Let the others
like
suffer, we will gain out of
if
it.
if you have property here in Ireland, like if you own a couple of houses, you could be a millionaire. Like you can rent them, you can sell them. Like you can sell a house now in Dublin for like a million euros, easy. And those former generations, baby boomer generations, they were able to afford a house, a summer home, this and that. I have my friends living in camper vans. Some of my friends can't even afford or don't want to afford a room because they're like, I'm just throwing my money away, so I'd rather just live in a van. And I mean, this is the West that is super rich. Like some people, yeah, they decide to live in a van, but some of them are literally forced. Like I know tons of like YouTube channels or Facebook channels where people are like living in vans and they have their gym membership so they can have a shower there, and it's not a life. Yeah, it's crazy, crazy. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow,
I,
is this what we were fighting for?
yeah, I think it reminds me of some video I saw on YouTube of um they showed how in California or somewhere in downtown in California somewhere uh, some areas are so bad, ridden with people who are drugged like anything. They're like walking like this, like zombies in the middle of the road, middle of the day, 2 p.m. in the afternoon,
I see that in
lying
Dublin every
down,
day. I see that
lying
in
down.
Dublin. I've seen
Yeah,
a guy lying on the street the other day, and an ambulance came in, and they were like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "I was just chilling here. Why are you bothering me?" He was drugged, and
it's very. Mm,
and we're talking. This is the freedom of choice as well.
yeah, there
But
are certain issues. I think more or less in different ways here in India too. I mean,
yeah,
I
I
mean,
know there's a lot of poor people and a lot of issues with that, and I mean every
uh,
country
yeah,
has
yeah, yeah.
issues.
There is issue of illegal immigrancy and all of that stuff, and then a lot of vote bank politics, and
Mm,
there's so many things like that intertwined because simply because the different states, different languages, each
mm,
state has its own politics. Then
yeah,
the national politics is different, you
yeah.
know. And I think keeping aside the politics also because of this, the innate dynamism that this country has,
Mm.
the flip side of it is that, there are people who are ready to take a bite out of everything.
The thing that's happening in, I think, in Europe now as well, it is so difficult. And
Mm,
like, I know myself, because like, and I find myself lucky because I'm a person that invested a lot in herself, so I have a couple of skills, so I can have multiple jobs, so I can always be sorted financially, thank God. um but there's a lot of people that don't have these options and can just work one job, and it's not enough for anything. Like, they can't. The biggest drive I think you have in your life is the hope that you can achieve something. And imagine, like, working 40 hours a week knowing you will never be able to own a house. A lot
mm,
of people just give up, because, like, what's the point? Am I going to throw away money on rent every month? Or I'm just gonna say, okay, I'm not gonna do anything. I'll just be on social welfare,
mm,
and I'll uh, I'll get high and forget about reality.
mm.
It's
Yeah.
like, people have been pushed against the wall now, and before, like, you had this idea, okay, I'm working very hard, but it's for a purpose. Okay, I have a goal. I will buy an apartment, buy a house. I will form a family, and I will have kids, and I will do this and I will do that. And now it's like, oh, I'm renting a room, and every year they're raising my rent, and nobody's raising my salary. And every year is more expensive and more expensive, and my salary is the same, and it's less I can afford. So what am I hoping for?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, when
Yeah,
I when my past
that's
landlord sold the house, it took me 4 months to find a new place, and that was
mm,
lucky.
mm.
So
That's a very legitimate concern. These are legitimate concerns, and of
yeah.
course, and I think that I strongly think and believe that the governments, people who are in bureaucracy, they need to be spiritualized in a proper way. That true sense of wealth, that true sense of administration should come into picture.
But I say as well, I appreciate democracy, and I appreciate the freedom of choice. But you also have responsibility towards your people. If you have people that are risking their lives on the street, you need to take care of them. You can't
Yes,
say it's their responsibility for getting,
yes,
addicted to drugs. Yeah, but like, it comes to the point where they need help, and you need to help them out. You can't
yes.
ignore them. They're,
Yeah,
if there's a country, all the people that live in that country are your children, and you're
yeah,
responsible in taking care of them.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there must be money to get these people off the street and give them proper care. And nobody
mm,
can convince me there's no money for it.
yeah,
There is money for it. It's just there's no goodwill, and I don't know,
yeah,
who is
well,
enjoying that, actually. Like, how can you sit somewhere in government and have your streets full of people, like, destroying their lives, and also making the environment really dangerous for the rest of us as well.
yeah.
Because
I
when
don't think
someone
there is a
is
dearth of wealth. There's a dearth of money. I don't think so. It is being deliberately created. That this dearth is being deliberately created so that the money can stay in a certain sections of society more, and with certain kind of people more.
yeah.
And of course, there are so many different kinds of people involved, and it's not just the government or bureaucracy, I would say. And I don't think that they would only want bad, but there are also people sitting on the sidelines in other different sectors who who sort of have that, because there will always be people who would want that, they would want to be the god of the whole world,
Mm,
like you have in Marvel and DC comics. You have this Thanos and what
yeah.
Darkseid and whatnot. They want to rule the world. So
Yeah.
there will always be people like that kind of mentality who
Yeah.
try to control and create a dearth when it's not there actually.
Mm.
They are the bigger level black marketers, so to say, hoarders.
I've
You know.
heard uh, I've heard a story recently about this. They're like a young Irish couple, and the girl had a baby, and they're living on the street, like they're homeless. And she had a C-section actually, and they just
Hmm.
they got her out on the street the second day. So she had a C-section, had a baby, and she's sleeping in a tent on the
Hmm.
street, and it's really cold here.
Yeah.
It is extremely cold. Wow, like have we lost our humanity? That's the question that I'm, if we're so logical, we're so, where's our heart? I feel like we lost our hearts in the process. um
Yeah, there these kind of issues, like you also, I mean, we get to hear, we get to see and hear, even here in India, in so many
yeah,
cases, uh, doctors would just uh, make them go away, and there are of course economical issues also, because
yeah, of course.
in there are urban, rural parts of India which are very like deep pockets, and there are economical challenges.
Mm,
Development has not reached because of many different reasons and issues,
mm,
and then so many layers to it. But yes, the basic level of sanitation, cleanliness, hygiene, health becomes an issue for these kind of. So
mm,
in that case, I would never talk about spirituality to those people. I
no,
would talk about money and resources to
of
these people
course. There's
because,
If you
and
don't have that, spirituality
you
is
know, you
not
know the
for you
beauty of
yet.
it. You know the beauty of it. I've seen it so many times in videos, and I've seen it personally from my own eyes. People who are from rural areas, from destitute areas, they are deeply spiritual already.
Yeah, yeah,
They are they are so connected with nature and and divinity.
yeah,
And even they have lack of resources, they still continue to celebrate the festivals in whatever little spirit resources they have
yeah,
in their way, and
yeah,
living in the spirit of the divine. Different festivals, be it Diwali or any other kind of such festivals, they will still celebrate. And cut to people who have all the resources, that they either they are, many of them, not all of them I would say, but then many of them isolated, away from family and friends, or even if they have friends, their friends are there only to compare their wealth. They're eyeing their wealth. What kind of a cloth, apparels are he wearing or she wearing? Jealousy,
yeah.
comparison.
Yeah.
So so many complexities around this. But yes, of course, I mean, this, it is a serious concern. It is a
It
serious
is.
concern,
It is.
and
I'm worried. There's a tiny fragment of people that are rich that are getting much much richer recently, and the middle class is getting poorer, and the poor are like at the brink of even being able to survive. And
indeed, I mean, the
and
boundaries are being pushed. The boundaries are
yeah,
being pushed,
yeah.
and this has
Anyhow,
to.
4 hours now, so I think it's time for us to wrap up. Oh, even my cat is up. She slept through our entire
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
I think maybe we leave the subject of tantra for next
yes.
time, but we really go in depth then, and I'm sure we're going to stray off the subject as well.
No, I think we'll
uh,
we'll we'll be we'll be like completely focused on that, and other elements around that.
hmm hmm
That can be like a very interesting, and of course, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to discuss and brainstorm around on
Yeah,
that subject as well.
absolutely. Such a complex thing as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Anyhow, it was amazing to talk with you,
Same
and
here, as
I will
usual.
definitely split this into two episodes.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so next time we talk about tantra then.
Sure thing, sure thing. I look forward to that. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks
To
everybody
everyone
for
who's listening and who will listen later.
yeah, and please
And
do
thank you to you
subscribe.
too, Annie, for having me here once again.
Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. That's why we always go over time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thanks,
I think
thanks to everyone.
our discussions will become very rich.
Yes.
Thanks. So many things come up. So yeah, Manu,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.